tout ce qu'on a construit, je me dis que 10 ans c'est tellement long. Et puis je me dis que c'est tellement court à chaque fois que s'affiche ton prénom. Parce que le temps n'a pas d'emprise sur la couleur de tes yeux. Parce que le vent éteint une petite flamme mais attise un grand feu. Parce qu'on s'est tant rapproché que nos souvenirs se ressemblent. Parce que quand la vie n'est pas simple, c'est tellement mieux d'être ensemble. Parce que je sais que le lundi je vais te parler et te voir. Parce que c'est toi, parce que t'es là. Je n'ai plus peur du dimanche soir. Je l'ai dans la tête comme une mélodie, alors mes envies dansent. Dans notre histoire, rien n'est écrit, mais tout sonne comme une évidence. Parfois elle aime mes mots, mais cette fois c'est elle que mes mots aiment. Et sur ce coup-là, c'est elle qui a trouvé le plus beau thème. Parce que je te chambre sur tes manies, mais que je pourrais plus me passer d'elle. Parce que je me moque de tes...
Good morning. How do you do? Thank you for being here. Thank you, Serge, for inviting Epic for the first Crossroads. That's a real honor. And thank you to all the lovely SGG people who've been helping us be here today. My name is Miriam van der Elst. I'm the head of Europe for Epic. It's a shame because the bit of the music I wanted you to hear is when he says, alone I go faster, and together we go further. It's a little bit sort of peace and love, but I think it says a lot. I'm just going to play a little video. It's like 3 minutes to put things, in perspective and understand a little bit what we do at Epic. Thank you.
Over the past few years at Epic, we traveled the world. We met great social organizations, but we saw also tremendous needs. How can we change the lives of the needy? How can we change the lives of the ones who were unlucky day one? I was lucky, and you were lucky. We grew up in a world where healthcare, education, protection was a given. It's less and less true for a lot of people. The outstanding organizations that we support at Epic are on track to change millions of kids' lives. The truth is not enough because demand is everywhere. So how can we solve this? How can we change this? How can we fix this? We need to step in. In doing so, we'll change millions of lives. We all give, but we all know that we could give more. We have the success. Let's share that success. So now, it's on us. It's on you, it's on me, it's on everyone. Because the needs are there. Join the Epic movement. And let's make giving the norm.
Thank you. Epic. The name says a lot. We've launched an Epic journey. We were created about 4 years ago. And just to put things in context, I'd like to introduce myself, just a couple of sentences. I'm a very pragmatic, strategic philanthropist. I worked in the private sector for 15 years, studied politics in France, then a master's degree at LSE in economics. So I'm not some hippie fairy who is going to tell you that we can change the world and there's easy and let's hug and kiss at the end of this presentation. What I want is maximum return on my investment, in my philanthropic investment. The mission of Epic, if I can use it, sorry, otherwise The mission of Epic is that we want to amplify your potential to make a difference in the world. And to do so, we have two mechanisms. 1, sorry, I just need to get used to this machine. And then we will fly. Or not. Okay. So it's not working. Doesn't matter, you know, I don't need it. So 2 mechanisms to help you amplify your potential in making a difference in the world. 1 is that we find, then we fund and scale high-impact social organizations around the world. They can be NGOs or social enterprises. The second mechanism is that we identify, we design, we source, and we promote giving solutions to the corporate sector. So the story of EPIC goes as it is. The guy you saw, Alexander Mars, is our CEO and founder, made loads of money in the tech industry. He's now 43 and he apologizes he cannot make it. He lives in New York. And when he was about 36, he's selling his 5th startup to BlackBerry. He's coming into even more money than the last time he did an exit when he sold to Publicis in 2007. So he considers that he's rich enough, which is an interesting concept. So he stops working for profit and decides to dedicate his wealth, the network that he's created over the previous 20 years, and his children's money to making the world a better place. But because he's an entrepreneur and because he's very strategic, he thinks maybe rather than reinventing the wheel, opening a new school in Cambodia, another hospital somewhere in Africa, maybe I can bring those entrepreneurship skills and I can create value into the philanthropic sector. So EPIC was launched following a market research that took us 3 years. We did an audit and we looked at what works and what doesn't work in that sector. And I'm going to do a little poll here because the sample size is big enough. So please be game. I've got 2 questions and answer the questions. The first question is, can you please raise your hand if you've given time or money in the last 12 months to any good cause? Yeah, I think it's about 99.5%. Keep your hand up if you feel you've done enough, considering what's happening out there. And as an entrepreneur, he had found the need gap. I think none of us here are bastards. I think we are very decent people. We're doing everything we can. We're doing the best in our life for our family and our community. We all give the gesture. The first question was, can you get your money out of or the wallet out of the pocket and do something? We all do. But we all know that the needs out there are tremendous. And I've seen in my lifetime that they've got worse, not better. So he thought, okay, maybe I can create at my expense, so his expense, not mine, at my expense, an intermediary, a sort of hyper-professional foundation. So we are a UK registered charity. In the US, we have 501. In France, we have Fonds de dotation. So I can create an intermediary which is going to be highly professional and it's going to create leverage. So to do that, going back to the first solution, we fund, and we scale high-impact social organizations. The way we do it is that we do find the selection, the fund, we raise capital, it's grants, it's philanthropy, but it's capital, and then we scale. So selection. When we did the market research before launching EPIC, we looked a lot at what other sectors, it's this open design thinking that's quite fashionable as a term. So we looked at other industries, thinking what other industry faces that issue of, currently there's 10 million NGOs around the world, 10 million. Just to give you an idea, in the UK alone, it's nice because it's registered charities, it's a clear concept. There's 176,000 registered charities in the UK. So if you say, yeah, but my cause is veterans, easy, it's only 2,000 charities helping veterans. Last statistics about the UK as a case study, 70% of those 176,000 registered charities, 70% operate on an annual budget of less than 10K. I don't know what they do. So 10 million organizations. So we came across where we found that private equity does something extremely similar. They have all this wealth of potential investments, and they have to recommend their clients the highest return on investment. So we've been influenced a lot or inspired by the private equity sector. Last year, to give you an example, we looked at 3,600 applications from NGOs and social enterprises from around the world, more than 100 countries. And we spent 8 months of due diligence. That's a language you understand. On 3 criteria: the what, the who, and the how. So the what is impact, the who is governance, and the how is financial and operational management. 3 criteria that become 15 KPIs, 3 iterations of that audit or due diligence. 8 months later, from the 3,600 applicants, we picked 8, which added to the 10 of the year before and the 10 of the year before. So currently, we have a portfolio of social investments that goes from India, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, Kenya, Uganda, Germany, France, UK, Belgium, and the US. And it varies depending on the selection. So we had Brazil a couple of years ago, for example. So I currently sell or raise capital or raise philanthropic donations for 30 outstanding, high-impact, rigorously managed organizations. And I go around Europe, and I go to private wealth directly or indirectly through the family offices or the private banks, or I go to corporations and I say, if you want to give back, if you want to share your good luck, but you want high impact on your generosity, you may want to give. And because Alexander Mars pays my salary, my office, my cost, all our costs at Epic, we do not have a business model. So we're totally pure. 100% of the money we raise goes entirely to the organizations. Then we know that the reasons why, the second question, you kept your hand down, why everybody is holding back, it's because you're all worried that you gave to the wrong organization. We know from the market research that there's 3 reasons holding you back. One is lack of trust. The second is lack of knowledge. We're no experts in Ebola or female excision or even youth, economic empowerment in Luxembourg. And then we don't have time. You're extremely busy people. So what we all have been doing is that we spread bets. We give to the kids' school, to Yale because you studied at Yale University. You're going to give to your synagogue or your temple. And the older we get, the more we give to medical research. But there's no strategy, no questions asked. We just hope that out of the 7 times we gave last year, hopefully at least half have some impact. We know that at best, 40% of what you gave had any kind of impact, and 60% was wasted. So what we do is that after we've raised that capital, those donations, we then do the monitoring. So for the next 3 to 5 years that we raise money for those amazing organizations, we use the same 15 KPIs, and we follow them, and we report back to the donor through 2 media: an app that gives qualitative and quantitative monitoring and feedback to the donor, and then reporting. So the reporting on the left-hand side, it looks like a private equity reporting, but it's independent and it's critical. On the left-hand side, it's a white paper we publish every year. 3,600 applicants, we picked 8. What do we do with that wealth of data? Because they filled in applications, we published a white paper. And I'll give you maybe 3 stats on last year's applications. Knowing that people who applied to us, the organizations that applied to us, came to us on referral from people we respect in the sector, the likes of Dasra in India, Gates Foundation, Bettencourt Schuler in France. So if you look at the applicants last year of high quality who were vetted by those sort of pipeline sourcing partners, 40% did not have their financial accounts audited. We tend to focus on youth, 0 to 25. 56% did not have a child protection policy, knowing that they're looking after kids who have been prostituted, whom then found on the street, who can only respond to kindness by offering you a blowjob. And they have no child protection policy to prevent that. And then another one that was amazing is more than half had no independent impact assessment. So when in the application form we say, do you have impact? Have impact. Do you have amazing impact? I have an amazing impact. Do you have the best impact in your category? I have the best impact. Self-declarative. And when you currently donate to an NGO, in terms of reporting what you receive is an annual report that is written by the NGO itself, which is in survival mode. So it's what we call the good news machine. So the reports we do twice a year and the outlook are all about giving you independent, critical report. We have nothing to gain. I don't need your money. I will never use any of the money or receive in the first place. So we do the selection, we do the fundraising, and we do the monitoring. In terms of monitoring, if you go to the next slide, thank you. What we also do is that we take people on visits. We really care about that. It's not that easy to find time. And what we also do is that we film every organization in virtual reality, which when you do something at corporate level is really useful to engage your employees. So this is the first half of EPIC, which is about finding, funding, and scaling organizations. On the scaling bit, we love franchising. So just to give you an example, after the Bataclan terrorist attack in France, Belgium realized that a lot of the terrorists were coming from the Molenbeek part of Brussels. And they came to the conclusion, like all of us in the philanthropic sector currently, that when you have to deal with those 16 to 25 disengaged, illiterate kids who have been failed by our education system and can barely write and read, there's one last chance, and that's coding, programming, because it's like music is another language. So you start from scratch. And if Serge, me, and that guy from Molenbeek, who cannot really read and write, we all started programming, and he's very bright, he's as bright as us, we would have exactly the same chances of reaching the same level. Considering that we know that there's a lack of qualified people on the employment market, so there's a queue of potential employers. So the Belgian government comes to that conclusion, one last chance for those 16 to 24-year-old people, programming. Belgium is clever. I'm half Belgium. So Belgium is clever. They know that they shouldn't reinvent the wheel. So they looked around, looked at Scandinavia, because when you look at social innovation, you always start looking at Scandinavia. Then they looked at EPIC. And from EPIC, they saw that we have one of the 30 organizations. It's called Simplon in France. And that's exactly what they do. 6 months free training on programming and 100% positive outcome because there's a queue of employers. So what they did is that they copy-pasted. Instead of reinventing the wheel, making mistakes, trying to be more clever, they took Simplon and they franchised. Within 8 months, they were opening in Brussels and they're opening in Antwerp and Liège and everywhere. We love that. We love the idea of franchising. The second half of, the second half of EPIC is what we also call the EPIC Lab. In the last, I think we would not have had the success we have if we had launched 10 years ago. And I would say kudos to the CEO who really has proven a sense of timing in markets, even if this one is philanthropic. In the last 2 years, not even since I started, what I hear from the corporate sector is fascinating. So what I hear is HR directors saying, this generation that we're recruiting, the talent who's going to make the future of our business, is not like any of us. And I agree. I know how it was when I graduated 20 years ago. It was very much the me generation. When I grew up, the sort of economic idol in France was Bernard Tapie. And we all wanted to be an entrepreneur to make shitloads of money as fast as possible. And what we realize is that this new generation, for all sorts of reasons, what they've been exposed to, what they're seeing currently, is not the same. If you look at the graduates from Stanford University, but it's the same from the masters in economics from Sciences Po, 20% of the graduates this year want to work for a social organization. And the quality of CVs we receive is amazing. So the philanthropic sector is not the weaker recruiter, of, people are not really in touch with reality. The next one about the millennials. Yep. 80% of 13 to 25 years old millennials want to work for an organization that takes its social responsibility seriously. So when the CEO of BlackRock, a couple of months ago, in his newsletter, Larry Fink, say, from now on, I confirm that BlackRock's investment strategy is going to be to invest in businesses that take their social responsibility seriously. He's not because he's a hippie fairy, it's because he knows that that will ensure economic success and financial success. Otherwise, what we hear from Simon Collins at KPMG in the UK, Christian Dior Parfum, what we hear from banks in France is they don't want to work for us. Half of the graduates want to have their own startup, they want to be entrepreneurs, 20% want to work for Epic. We're all fighting for the 30 remainders, maybe wanted to work. We have to pay them more. We train them at great expense for 18 months, and after 18 months, they come and they resign. And we say, okay, so which competitor are you going to? So, oh no, I'm going to Nepal to build a school. All right, okay, so that's your gardening leave. No, I don't know. I don't know whether I'm going to be there 6 months or a year. I'll see and I'll come back. So in terms of HR policy, recruitment, and retention, what they've discovered in the corporate sector is that purpose is the new currency. So when you hear, for example, the CEO of Carrefour, Alexandre Bompard, whom I met with my Alexandre about a month ago in Paris, who says the second question they ask at job interviews is, what is your social responsibility? Supply chain of the clothes you sell at Carrefour, vegetables and food that is not being sold. What do you do with it? I will not come and work with you if you don't convince me that you've taken it into account. So, on the other hand, what we also know, if you can go, purpose is the new currency. Sorry, I'm jumping around. You can jump one more. What we've discovered is in business, you can move on to the whole slide, thank you. There is currently 3 types of CEOs or corporate people. You've got the tapis generation. There's a few dinosaurs left who only want profits and nothing else. I'm not even going to bother speaking to them. Then you've got the Bill Gates of this world, and I would say Alexandre Mars. I mean, he's gone a bit extreme, Alexandre with Epic, but you've got the sort of idealists who want to put their life and their money at the service of others. And then I'd say the majority, and that's the majority that we need. And when you say, Serge, I mean, I was, it was a perfect fit, everything you were saying, that finance can help, and we need finance. We need people to generate value. When after conference people come saying, oh my God, I love Epic, can I join? I say, well, stay in your day job and change it from within and help grow Epic from where you are. And that's the majority, and they're pragmatic. And they're pragmatics like Larry Fink of BlackRock, who knows that economic and financial success come from taking your responsibility seriously. If we go to the next slide, what we also know is that the corporate sector is saying, okay, so employees, I've mentioned talent and so on, purpose is the new currency. Consumers have become activist consumers. They vote with their feet. Between 2 yogurts, they will choose the yogurt which is socially responsible, which has got purpose. The cow has been stroked in the right direction, and the grass is green. And then you have investors like Larry Fink. So they say, we have been doing CSR for years. It's a paragraph that big in the annual report. We all know it. But now we have to identify our values much more. We have to advocate them, and we have to live them from within the business. And what we know as well, because we come from the private sector, is that there's a bottom line that you have to respect, and that as a business, your responsibility goes to the shareholders or your investors, and also to your employees. So what we said, Epic, and that's the second half of Epic, let us help you weave social good through everything you do within your business and your business model in ways which are painless, doesn't have to cost that much and hit your bottom line, but recurrent, small streams can make massive rivers, and optional. Philanthropy is not a tax, and the corporation is not a government. So yeah, first one, thank you very much. So what we do is that at EPIC, with the EPIC Lab, we're constantly on the lookout for solutions that exist in one country and we can offer globally. We are a global organization, by the way. Headquarters in New York, offices in San Francisco, London, Brussels, Paris, Mumbai, and Bangkok. So we have a menu of options for the corporate sector to weave that social good in ways which are painless. I'm so happy that you announced today that SGG was joining this program. It's a joy. Thank you very much, and I hope it's going to be a massive success. The way it works, payroll giving, launched in the UK in 1987. The Americans, the US have been doing it for a while. Literally does not exist in France, cannot yet be done in Belgium, for example, to tell you that the curve is really starting. There's no such thing as a pay slip, monthly pay slip, that ends with 00 after the comma. What if we asked all employees to surrender the cents or the pennies after the comma? Payroll giving. So we're doing it with Christian Dior Couture, for example. I mean, HR directors are really interested. So in the last 6 months that we launched it in France, we've signed L'Oréal, 12,000 employees, de Richebourg, 30,000 employees, Coca-Cola France, can't remember the number, but you can imagine, and Christian Dior Couture. Christian Dior Couture, they don't give the pennies after the comma. They give, like on average, they give about €5 a month. The second tool is what we call transactional giving. So transactional giving is round up at the till. The bigger the bill is, the less painful it is. So our ambition is that in 7 years' time, we will be 10 years old. At least once a day in your daily life, you have been offered the option of being kind, of sharing, of helping. So you go to a restaurant, you buy cinema tickets or concert tickets, anything, and say on e-commerce, for example, vente privée, the average basket is €200. And then you've got the delivery cost, it ends with, 50p after the comma. Would you like to round up for social good, to the euro above or to the pound above? So it's the opposite of the payroll giving. Lyft, for example, this is, thank you. Lyft, challenger of Uber. Uber has been declining for all the social responsibility reasons that I've evoked. Lyft, in the meantime, when you exit your taxi, you can round up. And in all the research that the customer clients research they've done, apparently has been a massive differentiator in people switching from Uber to Lyft. If we could, that's the, it's just the logic, it's just to explain that it's actually intuitive for us to round up, because if you look at the pump, the gas station, you're always spending 3 minutes trying to go to zero, which you always miss, but there's something quite intuitive about it. If you go to the next slide, transactional giving I've covered. Sharing pledge. Listen, because I want you to hear. Investment funds, but also entrepreneurs. Investment funds. 2 months ago, we signed a private equity fund. It's called 17 Capital. It's actually registered in Luxembourg. And I came and explained, we've got to help everybody, let's be kind, let's be generous. What about considering sharing your success from the carried interest? What about considering pledging for when your fund is dissolved, a tiny percent of that carried interest, 1%, so 1/100th of the 20%. 17 Capital, there's 25 people between the London office and the Luxembourg office and the New York office who are going to receive that in 2024. Of the 25 people who were asked, would you like to do it? Because the founders didn't want to be the only ones. They wanted to try to do it collectively. How many out of the 25 do you think said, yeah, I'll give 1% of my carried? Don't be shy. 23. which makes me happy because it means it was a free decision. And then they send us the emails they received, which said, and it makes me proud to work for 17 Capital, which is not just about making our rich clients richer. So that's just an idea of the investors' pledge. We're signing in France. We started in France offering it to VC firms. Out of the 10, within 6 months, 6 or 7 out of the 10 signed the pledge. So please, considering, it doesn't hurt. It really doesn't hurt that much. And in the 6 or 7 years that you're waiting for the exit, there's this supplement of soul. There's an extra reason why you're working so late and you may not be seeing your families as much as you wish. And when you come home and you explain your teenage children that it's not just about making money, but that the more you work and the better you work and the more success you have, there's this element of sharing. I know because my kids are 17 and 18, that's the only thing they respect in what we do. Entrepreneur pledge. After we speak, especially Alexandre, who's an entrepreneur, you always have all this youth coming saying, oh my God, you're my hero. I'm going to make shitloads of money, and then I will give it back. And we say, why do you wait? Why don't you pledge? It's a promise. It's a moral contract. We're not going to sue you if you renegade, once you have sold to McDonald's or Microsoft. Why don't you pledge a tiny % of your equity? Which we also call the lucky 1%, because we know that entrepreneurs are overworked, they're skinned, but they're very superstitious. So on the left-hand side, this is Xavier Louis, who signed the Epic Sharing Pledge Entrepreneur. He's the founder of Peak, and he sold to Hachette last year and came back to us and picked some of the organizations within the Epic portfolio he wanted to give that money to. In the middle, it's one of the VC guys, Brega Capital in Paris. And corporate leaders is Caudalie. Caudalie give 1% of their global turnover through Epic. So they use us to deploy their money. Next slide, because I think I'm almost done, so I wonder how I finished. Yeah, see, that's how I finished. I've got, I think, probably a few minutes. I've got 1 minute for questions, so maybe I can have an extra couple of minutes if you have questions.
We will have questions after.
After? Okay, good. Okay, wow, I'm bang on time.
So you're on time.
Yeah, okay, lovely. So I want to go back to how I started. I'm a pragmatic, strategic philanthropist. This is no hairy-fairy, let's make love kind of approach. This is about optimizing the return on your philanthropy, which you want to do and which you have to do. So yeah, and that's the book. It came out on the 16th of May, La Révolution du Partage. It's very short, it's 120 pages. It's really like a pamphlet about our approach. I think the most important page is probably page 97. You would do. Thank you very much.